Because when you get strong, it becomes just as important to lift the light weights with as much intensity as you lift the heavy weights. And I'm not talking about your warm-ups for squats, your warm-ups for bench, or even your warm-ups for deadlifts. While those are important, it is important to recognize that accessory movements are in themselves stretching under a load. So we are at our local Planet Fitness today. We are doing this because the gym that I normally go to does not have machines, and machines are good for isolating certain muscle groups in a certain way, certain angles, all that fun jazz. So we're at Planet Fitness where they've got machines because we have been pounding the compound movements. We did both squat and bench yesterday, and we've got to have some sort of a lifting recovery day, which would be today. So we are going to do our very best to not be judgmental or get lunked out of this gym. I haven't been lunked out. I've been going here for like a year and a half because they've got TVs and I got to do a lot of cardio. So I generally watch football games while walking on the treadmill. See, because Planet Fitness isn't that bad. You just got to recognize what their business structure is. They bet you $10 a month that you're not going to go to their gym. So I win every time. But also, it is a massive hassle to get rid of a membership here, and it is a trap. So unless you're going to use it often, it's good luck. But let's go. We've got to go do our loaded stretching, our stretching under a load. Make our muscles happy. So one of the biggest misconceptions that often arises when people think about, squatting 1,000 pounds or benching 600 pounds is that it's all about lifting as heavy as often as possible, when in reality, it's quite the opposite. So today was a kind of like an accessory day, but very light, very high rep range. And we had a bunch of things where I had tempo work, where it was zero acceleration, so it was the same tempo up and down, where I had timed sets where it was like you set a timer and you just go. It doesn't matter how many reps you get. It doesn't matter if you do them fast or slow. You're going for a set amount of time. And so this day, I don't want to say it's easy or it's hard, but it's humbling because what goes on is you're like, okay, so I'm going to do leg curls. So I did leg curls today, and I started off with 100 pounds. Now, when I'm normally doing leg curls at the gym that I usually do, I'm able to max out the machine, but this was an emphasis on the top end of the leg curl, where you have your legs as straight as possible, and you feel a nice deep stretch, and that stretch is going to help deal with any sort of inflammation that's going to pop up. It's gonna help mitigate any sort of injury that might be impending, because lifting is stretching under a load, and if you get better at stretching, chances are your risk of injury is also reduced. So we're trying to extend that range of motion upward, which when I was learning to lift, when I was coming up in the lifting world, I always heard, make sure you have the most range of motion. And I was like, okay, so let's make sure we get as big of a contraction as possible. And that's not quite what I meant, because I was always thinking about rows. People were like, make sure you get the most range of motion. I was like, okay, bring it to the chest. And I'm like, that's, now that I understand the biomechanics of how things work and how things should be going, I'm learning more about how the bones, the muscles, the ligaments move and how they grow. And it turns out that you can get a pretty good amount of progress, probably like a 45% amount of progress with a concentric, which is the contractionary part of a movement. But the majority of your muscle gains is going to come from that eccentric, that kind of stretch and load. And it actually ends up impacting your central nervous system, which is one of the biggest limiting factors that you're going to run into is how much load you can take, how much volume, what weight you can do. The biggest limiting factor is going to be your central nervous system, which is heavily dictated by your liver, and which is why liver health is good, alcohol bad, don't do drugs. And so you're able to do more work if you focus on the eccentric section, the eccentric part, the stretch of whatever movement you're doing. And you're going to end up being stronger for that. You're going to, like, if you take your own training and you focus on the stretches, make sure you have a nice deep stretch and you have nice controlled descents, you're going to end up blowing up and in a good way. So, like, if you there's a saying that everything that's hard is worth doing, and you don't want to take the easy way out. Something along those lines. I'm not. I didn't fight in World War II, so I'm not old enough to actually know what the saying is. But don't take the easy way out. You know what the easy part of any lift is? It's the contraction, the explosive movement. When you see people busting out heavy weights, they're trying to be as explosive as possible because that's the easy part. When you like, but if you think about the movement, and a lot of times a lot of people will cut their ranges of motion short because they want to increase their output capacity, or not just capacity, but if you watch someone leg press, there's no rules on leg press. Leg press is a lawless land where ego lifting runs rampant, and someone will say they're leg pressing 1,000 pounds, but it's looking more like a knee bend. And if you focus on the negative part of things, and you focus on the harder parts, because let's be honest, when you're doing tricep extensions, you're focused on that explosion downward, and you're not really thinking about the speed in which you're bringing things back. Or like if you're doing curls, you're thinking about just moving the weight up and breaking things down into kind of not just moving weight, and figuring more about how you're moving the weight, and kind of things. It's almost like your body is a car, and like you can take all the supplements in the world, and that's doing your engine maintenance, and that's doing your oil changes, putting gas in the cars, eating your food. But you've got to be able to change your tires. You gotta go to the mechanic. You got to get your state inspection if you're in one of those states with state inspection requirements. Like, you got to make sure that your car can run, because you can red line your car all day long, but things are going to start breaking down. You can do burnouts all day long, but things are going to be breaking down. What you're doing in powerlifting, when you're doing maxing out your squats, when you're maxing out your bench, when you're maxing out your deadlift, is you're redlining your body. And a day like this, where I'm doing very simple movements, very light movements for high reps, focusing on the stretch part, focusing on the eccentric, like today we were doing oscillating over or dumbbell overhead press, shoulder press. I don't know what the difference between those two are. And the notes on my program say focus on the stretch. So the way that I make sure that I have a good stretch whenever I'm doing this movement is I tap my shoulder with the dumbbell. And yeah, dumbbells are going to get bigger and bigger, and you're going to the dumbbell that I was using was kind of a smaller dumbbell, so I was able to get a better range of motion. This goes to the same as if you're doing like incline dumbbell bench. If you tap the outside of your shoulder, you're going to get really good chest stretch. And what happens when you get a good chest stretch is your body says, hey, we need to send blood here. We need more recovery. We need more oxygen here. And you end up getting a better pump. And pumps are indicators. Pumps are good to track. If you're not getting pumps while you're training, I mean, you could make progress, because I made progress like that for about 7 years. And now every time I go to the gym, I'm getting a pump, because a pump is an indicator. It's an indicator that gains are about to happen. What goes on when you're getting a pump is the your body is saying, hey, this is a source area that requires extra maintenance, extra recovery, repairs. And the repairs are what build strength. It is the adaptation that your body goes through in order to get better. And the adaptation is getting stronger. So you get a pump, means you've got lots and lots of micro tears. Your body's allocating resources to the muscle groups, to the areas that are required by the movements that you're doing, which is why accessories are good, because so when you're doing compound movements, you're not really going to be leaning into that stretch part of the lift, right? You get bench, you can't really sink a bench deeper because your body's in the way. Squats, you can go a bit deeper, but you don't get extra points, so it's like there's no use to it. And deadlifts, it starts on the floor. Like you can do deficit deadlifts and you get more stretch, get more positivity out of it. Oh, there's a cat. Oh, hi, kitty. There's a kitty cat just walking up my street. Anyways, so you're not gonna really get a really good stretch. Oh, the cat's walking on snow now. You're not gonna get a really good stretch with those compound movements, right? So it is up to your accessories, the movements that you do outside. So if you're doing a bench, you're going to do some accessories for your back. Back is utilized in all three lifts, so you've got to do a back movement every single time that you go to the gym, because it's important to have that maintenance. Otherwise, you're going to have really tight backs. You're not going to have a good time. If you're benching, do shoulder stuff, because the shoulder girdle is a highly abused section of the body when you're doing bench press. If you're doing squats or deadlifts, lean into a hamstring stretch, and you can't really get that kind of stretch on the movements that you're doing. So, like if you're doing squats, it might be a good idea to do dumbbell RDLs. Make sure you get a good stretch, something that's going to bring your hands basically to the ground and get a good stretch out of that. You see a lot of the top lifters nowadays, like Shane Hunt, Dawson Windham, they're able to do splits. That's because they're leaning into that stretch part of their lift. So today was a pretty good training session. We leaned into the stretches. We got pretty good pumps. And so one of the things that my coach has on my program is focused meditation after I finished the pre-fatigue work. And the pre-fatigue work was that push-up iso hold into zero acceleration push-ups with that super great range of motion, because I've got T-Rex arms. And if I do a full range of motion, I can't actually do it because I'm a bit of a pussy. Anyways, and I actually hit a PR today. And it's not like I went to the gym, I did 20 minutes of cardio, and I did 10 by 20-second hold and 10 reps of a push-up, right? And immediately after that, I hit a PR when it came to heart rate. I got my heart rate into the low 50s. Now, the average American heart rate is about 60 to 100 beats per minute. And I got it below 55. And being a man who's 330 pounds, it's really cool to see that. That is a PR. I'm in the gym, I'm working out, and I'm able to get my heart rate that low. Your heart health is directly indicative of your ability to recover. You've got liver health determining how hard you can push yourself, heart health determining how hard you can recover. So I'm learning a lot with my new coaching crew, my coaching team over the past year and a half. And we're really leaning into these biological factors, like learning about this stretch part, learning about how the liver affects things, because it's a very important part of the immune system. So, which is why when you are peaking for a meet, you're going to get sick, because you're taxing your liver out pretty intensely. And your heart rate is going to be determining how you're recovering. And I've just spoken in a couple circles there. Just look out for your liver, look out for your heart, because if you don't look out for those things, you're going to be limiting your progress in the sport of powerlifting. Honestly, in the sport of anything, if you're looking for any sort of athletic endeavor, look out for those two pieces. Look out for your entire body. You're more than just what you can do, right? Because you can do more if you recover better, if you do all this. Look out for those specific things. I don't know how I'm ending this, so you boys just stay degenerate, and Patty's out.